Welcome to the Systems Thinker Show. This is Season 5, Episode 33, and I'm Jacob K. Bettis.
And I'm Tiffany Marie Jones. We want to kick things off with a huge thank you to our listeners tuning in from 32 different countries. That's just incredible.
It really is. And we've set a big goal for ourselves, 10,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. Right now, less than 43% of you who listen are actually subscribed. So if you could do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe or follow button right now, well, it really helps us out with the algorithm so we can keep bringing you these best-in-class business cultural insights.
Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to unpack a really powerful idea for boosting team performance. It all comes down to understanding and then applying one of the famous 48 laws of power. So the core idea here is from Robert Greene's Law 25. And it's not about totally forgetting who you are or where you came from. It's about strategically reinventing your image, your skills, and even your strategy so you can take on whatever new challenges come your way. You get to consciously decide who you're going to be, instead of just letting your past box you in.
Right, but what happens when a company gets, well, stuck? When it fails to reinvent itself? We see it happen all the time. You hear that phrase, well, that's the way we've always done it. And that is maybe one of the most dangerous sentences in business. Let's look at a real-world example of a company that turned things around.
Yeah, let's talk about a company called Orion Tech Systems. Picture this. They've been around for 40 years, an IT provider, but their culture had just gone stale. They were very quickly becoming yesterday's technology. Morale was in the tank, innovation was basically zero, and they were seriously losing their competitive edge.
So the first thing they did, under this awesome plan they called Project Phoenix, was a complete identity shift. And look, this wasn't just some slick new marketing slogan. This was a deep fundamental change to their mission. It gave the entire team a brand new, modern purpose and a really clear roadmap for the future.
And this slide shows you exactly how they pulled it off. This was way more than a new logo. We're talking a total overhaul. They reset their vision, their leadership style completely opened up, no more closed-door decisions. They retrained over 75% of their staff in things like AI and cybersecurity, and they made their whole strategy way more adaptable to a market that changes in the blink of an eye.
So, did it work? Well, the results were definitely tangible. By reinventing their culture and their skill sets, they saw a 28% jump in client satisfaction. Suddenly, Orion Tech wasn't just another vendor. They were seen as this relevant, forward-thinking partner.
And you know what's really interesting? That impact was felt just as strongly inside the company. Employee attrition, the rate people were leaving, dropped by 20%. People actually wanted to stay because they were a part of something new and exciting again. They were growing, learning, and they believed in the mission.
But look, Orion Tech isn't some weird, isolated case. This need to recreate yourself is happening absolutely everywhere, in every single industry. This isn't just a tech story, it's become a fundamental reality of doing business today. Just look at this data. You've got manufacturing floors bringing in robotics, engineers who have to constantly learn new software, marketing teams that are totally shifting away from old-school ads to building real communities. The clear majority of industries are actively reinventing how they work just to stay in the game.
And what's wild is that when the pressure is on, this trend just hits hyperdrive. I mean, we all saw it during the pandemic, right? In supply chains and how we do medicine. The takeaway here is that reinvention is no longer a choice. It's really a core part of being resilient and, frankly, of surviving in the modern world.
So Robert Greene's idea of reinventing yourself for power is, well, it's powerful. But is it the only way to think about this? Let's bring in what we're calling a council of mentors to see how different experts tackle the same big goal. For instance, you've got Greene, who's really focused on power and image, how other people see you. But then you have someone like Petersenge, who frames the whole thing as building a learning organization. For him, reinvention bubbles up from this deep, shared desire to learn and grow. They're both aiming for reinvention, but they're looking at it through totally different lenses.
And this slide just lays out that fascinating variety. You've got these really structured models like Kurt Lewin's classic unfreeze, change, refreeze, or Kotter's 8-step process. Then you have the more human-centric views from folks like Cantor and Connor, who focus on empowerment and emotional resilience. And then there's the super disciplined, data-driven approach from Lanier Johnson, who uses management operating systems to make reinvention a daily measurable habit.
Okay, so how do we make sense of all these different takes on the same idea? It really boils down to one fundamental question. Are you trying to change minds and perceptions, or are you trying to change the underlying systems and processes?
This table really lays out the two sides of that coin. On one side, you have the influence camp, thinkers like Green and Cotter. This is all about shaping how people see things, creating urgency, and getting that quick, visible momentum. Then you have the infrastructure camp. They're focused on building the deep, sustainable systems that make change actually last. Their strength is in disciplined, long-term transformation.
But here's the kicker. Despite all those differences, they all agree on these key things. You absolutely have to have continuous learning. You need leaders who actually walk the talk. You've got to get genuine buy-in from your employees. And you need structured processes to lock it all in. So the big point here is, you can't just pick one philosophy and call it a day.
Exactly. Real, lasting reinvention needs both. You need that inspiring story and the visible changes from the influence side to get the ball rolling. But you also have to have the disciplined systems and processes from the infrastructure side to make sure that change actually sticks around for the long haul.
And that leaves us with one final thought. This isn't just a big theory for giant corporations. It applies to our teams, and it applies to every single one of us as individuals. The principles are universal: learning, adapting, and consciously choosing the path you're on.
For any additional information, please feel free to reach out through our website at www.karaswisher.com. And be sure to check out our other podcast, The Continuous Improvement Lab. A very special thank you to our executive producer and founder, Linear Johnson. Thanks so much for tuning in.